All right, welcome to Common Sense Investing. My name is Cameron, and today I'm here to talk to you about microcap stocks because it's definitely the week for it. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I've researched so many stocks in the past month, and it's finally culminating in Planet Microcap coming out October 21st, which is tomorrow. I am recording this on October 20th. And I mean, we've had such a busy season of investor conferences, right? We've had Small Cap Discovery September 29th and 30th. We've just had the LD Microcap conference. There was a main conference on October 3rd. There was another one starting yesterday and today. We now have Planet Microcap, and there's more to announce. There's even more conferences coming up, so we're not quite done. But my gosh, there's been a lot of fantastic companies to research. What do you think? Right? I'm going to have a live stream today. I have a little bit of a presentation for you today. Feel free to put comments in the comment board, ask questions, talk about whatever stocks you want to talk about. And at the end of my little presentation here, I will have, as always, a Q&A period, and we could talk about other stocks other than what I'm covering today. What do you think? What are your favorite stocks at Planet Microcap Showcase starting tomorrow, October 21st to the 23rd? I've got my list. You've all seen it publicly. This is the thumbnail from a free Substack article that I put out of my top five. I'll talk about that. A little bit more than 5 stocks I have in this Substack article that I'm really watching here for Planet Microcap that I am going to talk to you about today. So free Substack article and then a free live stream here today where I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite picks for Planet Microcap in Toronto. Interesting. I put out this poll today. This poll is not closed yet. There's only 34 votes so far, and so there's still about 18 hours to vote. But I was curious. So thank you to everybody that voted so far. What am I curious about? Are you prepared to buy a starter position on a stock during the event, Planet Microcap Toronto, with no prior research based solely on their presentation or your one-on-one meeting? And I tell you, at the I did. I bought one stock when I went to Small Cap Discoveries in Vancouver, and I bought it on basically no research. I hadn't researched the company for about 9 or 12 months, and I was so impressed by their presentation and their one-on-one that I did end up buying Grey Wolf Animal Health. And when this poll started, when there was only about 5 or 10 votes, the amount of people that said, yes, I will buy that day was like 9 or 10% or something like that. This number was very low. And so I felt like an outlier. I'm like, oh my gosh, is no other investors as impulsive as I am that I would buy a stock simply because of a good presentation? And I could see that now that we're starting to get a few more votes, there are more people willing to admit that, yes, they would buy that day if a company has a good enough presentation. And then another 32% of people says, well, we say no. We say that we'll go to these investing conferences and we're not going to FOMO buy a stock while we're there, but maybe, right? Maybe if the presentation is good enough, maybe. So for any companies and CEOs that are watching my YouTube videos, and I know there's a couple, right? This is what you're shooting for. I mean, basically, when you're presenting at Planet Microcap or some other investing conference, you've got about, a 60% shot here, where if your presentation is good enough, you're picking up some investors, right? That's a pretty good odds. And these people aren't saying no, they're saying no right now. I need to do more research. So this is definitely the benefit of some of these investor conferences. And like I always say, it's not necessarily always about getting that share price gain on the date of the investor conference. You look at the weeks after, you look at the months after. All you really want from these investor conferences are more eyeballs, more people willing to do research on a company, or maybe buy that tiny starter position and watch. And then if the company executes and impresses, maybe it doesn't go up right away. But because these companies have this extra attention that they get from investors at these investor conferences, as long as they execute, you will get here, right? Because people are watching the stock. People own the stock and people are researching the stock. You want those eyeballs. That is the whole point of investing conferences like Planet Microcap Showcase. So thank you. Thank you to Small Cap Discoveries for putting on that conference earlier or late in September, earlier in the fall. And thank you to Planet Microcap for putting on another one here, October 21st to the 23rd. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It does, for me, create quite a bit more discovery and visibility for the green check marks just on this one page are companies that have already covered or provided some form of media attention to, right? So as you could see, damn near half or over half of the companies that are presenting at Planet Microcap here starting tomorrow, I've already covered. I've already done some research on, decided that this was a good enough company that I want to provide at least some coverage on them. And the overlap here, basically this is more visibility for some of these companies that I already like. Now, the other thing that an investor conference like this does is it forces me to research some other companies. This is an interesting company right here I never heard of before. Did a bit of research into them. I keep some of my secrets to myself, whether I like them or not, right? That's why I do have paid Substack and a paid Discord. I got to keep some secrets, but I've researched some of these other stocks here, and there's some good ones, there's some not so good ones, but I do love that investor conferences force me to do this research and make sure that I'm up to speed with some of these other companies that I don't know about yet, right? That's the exciting part of some of these conferences. And there's so much variety. Like you look here, this is one of my picks for Planet Microcap Toronto, $297 million market cap right here compared to InTouch Insight and their $13 million market cap. So I love the variation. Look at this smorgasbord right here of different market caps. 255 million, 104 million, 29 million, 18 million, a lot in this kind of $10 to $25 million market cap range. That is fantastic. So for a microcap investor, this is exactly what we're looking for. There is something for everyone here, different sizes of companies without being too big. I am very happy and thank you to Planet Microcap for not allowing too many of like the 1 or 2 or 3 billion kind of market cap companies to kind of sneak in. It is nice to see that one of the largest companies on this list is Fearan, right? FTG. I like this company, but I mean, it is getting a little bit large. McCoy Global, do they have a good presentation? That is one of my questions as well. Starting tomorrow, starting the Tuesday. I know one of the things is that when Planet Microcap had their showcase event in Vegas this past spring, there was almost a competition for who could put out the best press release. Contracts, corporate updates, partnerships, whatever it is, right? Any kind of news. There were companies out there. 2 of them were McCoy Global and NTG that put out news basically right close to the Planet Microcap event. So I do have to wonder if this happens again. I see that McCoy Global already has a little bit of news they put out, but I mean, it is an exciting time because this should be kind of a boring period in October. We've got about 3 to 4 weeks before earnings start coming out for a lot of these companies. So if Planet Microcap is paired with some news from the companies, that is, I look forward to that, right? It's exciting stuff. And then finally, again, some of the variation. Reclaim, right? $9 million market cap. You know, I've been providing Reclaim a little bit of coverage, but I've also provided coverage to VersaBank. I really like VersaBank, and that video of mine did not get a lot of views. They're doing fairly well recently. I believe they're the largest market cap in attendance. So look at that on this one page, all the way from $9 million market cap to $410 million market cap with VersaBank expanding in the United States. This is quite the opportunity. I will put links for some of these videos, some of my favorite videos down below in the pinned comment. So after this live stream, if you want to check them out, go have a look at that pinned comment and there'll be a few videos for you, or just go on my channel. They're all there, right? Now, talked about this before, what I am looking for, and this is a nice little cheat sheet for you, maybe a little bit. So this was on my Discord that people on YouTube typically don't see very often. And this is a bit old, and that's why I was kind of comfortable kind of posting it here. But I mean, these are some of the stocks that I was researching and it had higher up on my list. So I know a lot of people are saying, well, Cameron, you don't talk about Tantalus Systems, that's Grid, very often. I don't mind them. They actually ranked pretty high for me going into Planet Microcap Toronto. But keep in mind, I am looking for some different things going into these investing conferences. So I say this all the time, is that really most of the time as an investor, I am looking for the numbers, right? I am looking for the quantitative aspects of investing. Are earnings trending up? Is a company growing and profitable? Is their share structure good, right? I'm always numbers, numbers, numbers. I'm very much probably a 95% kind of numbers guy. I'm damn near a quant investor most days. But it is that rare opportunity here during investor conferences that allows me, and I think other investors, I don't think I'm the only one, that is looking for some other stuff, right? Good company, good management. This is qualitative. This isn't measurable, really. Sure, we could look at some Royce numbers or our return on equity numbers, but honestly, in the microcap space, do we really still believe that those numbers represent good management or a good company? I don't think so, right? You look at prudence, you know, how well they handle cash, how well they handle their shares and other equity, right? Is this a good company that's helping people? Are they solving a problem? Is there some kind of information that's going to be released or discussed at the investor conference that it's maybe hard to discuss in the MD&A, but it's easier to discuss in person and say, hey, this is really what you should be focused on for this company. And then finally, is there social proof? I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm sitting there and Matthew Martin from Ribmont and Ian Castle and Paul Andriola all go into a room together to go look at a stock pitch, I'm going into that room, right? Like, what are those guys going to see? There is social proof when you go to investing conferences. You hear other people talk about their favorite companies, their favorite stocks, and you get excited too. It's completely natural. It's just a human reaction, right? So these investing conferences are one of the few times where I do let myself kind of get a little bit off the quantitative and onto the qualitative. Now, I know one of the first things people are asking, am I attending this conference in person? No, I will not be there in person, unfortunately. I just attended the one in Vancouver, and we have some family issues where our family might have to actually have some surgeries, and I need to keep my time and my money available for some of that travel and looking after some of her family members. So unfortunately, I will not make it here at the Toronto event, but I will be watching online, and I still watch for a lot of the similar things, right? During the presentation, does the CEO sound competent, capable, answering the right things that I want to hear, right? So I am looking for more of the qualitative during these investing conferences. One of the other major things I've been talking about, last time I'll say it, 30%, 150 non-Canadian investors. So you have a whole bunch of Canadian companies and stocks pitching to 150 non-Canadian investors. That has opportunity. I like that, but even more opportunity, 60-40 split between individual investors and institutional. That means that there's around 200 institutional investors at the Planet Microcap Toronto conference. That's a lot of big money. And if a small company can get discovered by institutional investors, that will be very good for that company, right? So some things to consider as well. It's not just about the company's pitches themselves. So one of the things here is Jerry from Investor File, great investor. We've been covering some of the same, hugely winning stocks recently. I keep bumping into this guy, right? One of those is Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper's up significantly, and Jerry Wimmer was a huge advocate of Gatekeeper. So congratulations to Jerry. And one of the things that he points out here is that he has been invited to speak at Planet Microcap Toronto, including giving a 15-minute stock pitch. So do not forget that while, yes, most of the companies are presenting, I believe, on Wednesday and Thursday, there's still this opening lineup of people here on the Tuesday who are presenting. I got 2 different pages here of people presenting all the way from 12. It's a full card, right? All the way till 5:30. And I assume most of these people will be given stock pitches, right? Some large investors, Ryan Telford, Maxwell House on Twitter, Matthew Martin. I mean, Jordan Zinberg, right, from Bedford Park Capital. He was the gentleman that pushed Enterprise Group from, I started covering them at 20 cents and they went to $2.65, something like that, right? That was a huge part simply because Jordan Zinberg liked Enterprise Group. So, I mean, these are large investors, a lot of resources, a lot of respect in the industry, and they will all be making stock pitches to 500 investors potentially. Maybe not everybody's going to be in the room all the time, but that's still a lot of people that you're talking to. So it's amazing that we forget about this, right? Friend of the channel here, really like Ryan Irvine and the gentleman over at Keystone. So many, too many to research, right? Furnace Research, Jerry I just spoke about, Nick Boychuk, right, from Cormark. There's somebody coming from Beacon. I mean, the stock pitches here, if you have time, go research some of these people. I know even like right now, Jerry's basically running a competition on X right now, basically guess which stock I'm pitching at Planet Microcap Toronto. I mean, if you can guess, there's a good chance that that stock's going to get some attention, right? So I love these stock pitches here at Planet Microcap Toronto. Just adds a little bit more attention because guess what? These stock pitches, it's my understanding, it doesn't need to be a stock that's actually at Planet Microcap Toronto. It can be any stock, right? So we could see some companies that aren't presenting at this event still get a pitch from some investor in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. So getting into it, I got my Substack article here and I'll start talking about that. Before I start talking about specific stocks and numbers and everything else, not financial advice. And I always say this, I mean this, I don't know anything about you. I don't know your experience level, how much capital you're working with, your investing strategies. If you have an investing strategy or if you're just a new investor, I don't know any of that. So this is not a solicitation to buy, sell, or hold any of these stocks, but we do need to have a forum where we could talk about some of these stocks and hopefully like through that communication, either you learn how to invest a little bit, or if you're already an experienced investor, we just exchange ideas and it's just a good tool to kind of, idea creation. And basically, hey, here's some stocks that I think you should go research, and that's it. Now, before I got a few interruptions in this presentation. I'm very distracted today just because I have been researching so many stocks, but I do have to give a shout out here to my US stocks, right? Recently in the past 6 months plus, around 6 months, I've definitely pivoted quite a bit from mostly Canadian stocks to, adding quite a significant number of American stocks to my coverage. And one of the reasons, the main reason for that is there's simply too many fishermen, not enough fish. There hasn't been a lot of IPOs in Canada. There's not a lot of new companies in Canada unless they're brought to the market from Paul Andreola, right? So to get a little bit of extra diversity and opportunity, I was always invested in Canada, not because I was a Canadian, which I am, but there was just so many opportunities in the Canadian space. And then one of the things that I've been finding at around mid-2024 is that a lot of opportunities started to pop up for me in the American space instead of the Canadian space, right? So I'm missing Sanuwave. But I mean, this is kind of my list right now of some of the American companies and American stocks that I cover. And I mean, they've been crushing it. They really have been propping up my portfolio. I hope they've been good for you as well if you own any of these, but absolutely fantastic. Just today, Neuraxis was up quite a bit, 15 to 20%. Core Medics on good results was up 15 to 20%. Mind was up again, right into that fair value price for me. These US stocks have been doing very, very, very well. Narax is starting to get a little bit of discovery. Nobody liked this video. Nobody liked this company about 2 months ago, and now all of a sudden I'm up 50%. So congratulations to my US stocks, right? Speaking of which, one of the companies, and this is another US company, was supposed to be presenting at Planet Microcap, and they didn't. I don't know why they pulled out or whatever. Maybe it's because they're a US stock. I'm not sure why, but this is NextGel. I do want to mention them because, you know, friend of the channel here, Value Bridge, David Barbado, who previously interviewed me, fantastic gentleman, right? Fantastic interview. I had a great time with David, and he does it again. This is another fantastic CEO interview with Adam Levi of NextGel. I really like this company. This is another American company, American listed stock. It has been falling asleep share price wise for the past little while. Well, 9 months, right? But really, this is potentially a good 2026 play. I have had pretty good success in US listed stocks and the American markets. Go listen to the CEO interview. I will definitely post that down below in the pinned comment after I am done recording this live stream. I do really like this company and its potential. I think the CEO does a fantastic job. Very prudent, very competent. I like that quite a bit, and fantastic interview from Value Bridge. So good work, right? Now on to kind of my picks though for Planet Microcap. I don't think I need to beat a dead horse to death here, right? Like Decibel, cannabis. I've been talking so much about this, and I've said that if we look back on Planet Microcap Toronto 2025, and it's 3 years from now in 2028, I am somewhat expecting, or maybe at least hoping, that we can look back to this point as the period where cannabis stocks were finally discovered by, they're already up, obviously some of them are up, but this is all retail discovery. I'm looking for larger investor, larger institutional discovery. Is this the time where we finally say that cannabis stocks are starting to get institutional buying, right? This is what I'm looking for out of Planet Microcap. There's something like 5 or 6 good cannabis companies presenting at Planet Microcap. Many of them are very, very good. So when I introduce Decibel Cannabis here, don't forget, I recently just made a video on Oxley. I've talked about Rubicon, right? Canara Biotech. There's so many of these good cannabis stocks out there. I'm basically just picking whichever cannabis stock that day basically just impresses me the most, right? There's quite a few good ones out there. Decibel Cannabis is up quite a bit. I thought they were going to get a breakout here. They were up to about Canadian 15 cents. Then we had a bit of a market downturn. They're back down to Canadian about 13 cents. I do say here, like one of the things with Decibel compared to some of the other cannabis stocks, they do have an international platform. So I do think they have potentially higher growth. I also think that comes with a little bit higher potential risk. But I mean, overall, this is potentially a higher growth cannabis stock. Fantastic numbers I'll show you in a second. And, you know, just one more cannabis stock for the list. Because as you know, I've been building, I had this question recently where, you know, people are asking me, up above here, somebody was asking me, well, what's my favorite cannabis stock? I don't necessarily have one. I'm not personally wasting my time to go find the absolute best cannabis stock. There's quite a few good ones out there. I find it is, for me personally, to just go, it's easier to go find the best cannabis companies in the sector and then just buy a bucket of them, right? So I'm just trying to buy a bucket of some of what I think are the best cannabis stocks in the sector. I'm not trying to pick one over the other. Right now, it's quite apparent these are the 5 that I own. I should say I also own Glow, but I'm not necessarily sure that that's cannabis stock so much. Like they have a different IP patent and everything. So as far as true cannabis, these are the cannabis stocks that I currently own. Now, of course, Marquis Merit, I've said before, if you're interested in the cannabis space and you're watching this because you are going to Planet Microcap Toronto, and you are interested in Canadian cannabis stocks, go give Mark a follow. Extremely intelligent, knowledgeable person in the cannabis sector. And Mark would like to get me to sell my hash and my Vexed and buy this one here. So it's nuts. We'll see who's more right in the future. Investing is always about the next 12 months, not the past 12 months, right? But this is what I got. This is what Mark wants me to buy. And maybe I add more, right? Because that's the beautiful part about building an index and not trying to pick the best, is I do want to just acquire some of the best cannabis stocks. And see, everybody else says their favorite as well. And I love Rubicon too, right? I don't own any yet. And maybe the next time I get some cash in the old account and I got nowhere to put it, they might be my next option. But the main thing with cannabis here, and why it's easier to pick out some of the best companies and just, invest in them as a bucket. Like this is Auxly Cannabis, this is Cannara Biotech, this is Decibel Cannabis, and this is Rubicon. And one of the main things you could highlight is you could see, look at all the red, all these red numbers, right? This is full year 2021, just ugly companies. I mean, no insult, just the way it was, right? Some are better. Decibel here was a little bit better in 2021, but a lot of red, right? And then you look at what you have now, just beautiful improving numbers, significant improvement, and that's what we're looking for. So for me to look at like 4 of these companies like this and try to pick out, margins are a little bit better here, cash is a little bit better there, growth is a little bit better here, I'd rather just kind of own all 4 of them. I think all 4 are fantastic companies. I mean, this is just one example here where I'm zooming in on Auxly Cannabis Group. I've asked the question before, what if this did not have cannabis in the name and this was Auxly Artificial Intelligence Group, and you saw this type of revenue growth that finally just suddenly boomed into these stunning numbers with $20 million of free cash flow here, net income margin of 20%. If this was an AI company, right, do you really think the market cap would be 175 million, or would it be 5 times that amount, right? So that really is one of the best pitches for cannabis in general, is that if we can get some cannabis discovery, the valuation increases alone would be worth investing in this sector. Now, shout out here, all these numbers I just showed you were not mine. They are from a Substack called Canadian Value Investors, who created a cheat sheet for Planet Microcap Showcase, which I have not done, but Canadian Value Investors has. So please go check them out on Substack. And you'll have one of these for basically every company attending Planet Microcap Showcase. What else we got? Another one of my picks. And man, there's just so much information coming in recently, because Sabio Holdings was definitely my pick. Keep in mind, I was lucky enough, right? I bought a lot of shares down here. So it's a lot easier for this to be one of my picks when I bought it 37, 38, 39 Canadian cents, right? It's already up a little bit. Savio Holdings is now at Canadian 48 cents. Now, what happened here is Savio Holdings went to 52 cents Canadian, right? They were starting to get some attention. They did an interview here with Radius Research, Martin Cagle, and it's a fantastic interview, lots of deep diving questions. And I put out this post. And why did I put out this post? Of all the ad tech companies out there, I get the most transparency from Savio Holdings. They explain the who, what, where, when, and why of the company and the industry better than other ad tech companies. So they do. They really do. We have some other fantastic companies that I cover, like Zoomed. Very few people know exactly what Zoom does in the ad tech space, and because of that, some investors simply won't buy them. Savio does a fantastic job of describing exactly what they do as a company. I also really, really appreciate their honesty, because basically if you go to about the 20-minute mark, 21-minute mark of this interview, they do say that they've had a challenging Q3. I appreciate that honesty, right? And you could see right off the bat, their share price dropped from 52 cents Canadian to 48 cents Canadian right after that interview. And I wonder if that's because other investors caught them saying that about Q3. But I tell you one thing is I appreciate the honesty a hell of a lot more than I just appreciate one good quarter that might not be the truth of what this company actually looks like. So they're saying, look, Q3 is going to be a little weak. Q4 looks to be back on track and extremely healthy. And 2026 looks fantastic for Sabio Holdings. So it's definitely still one of my top picks here for Planet Microcap, but I do really appreciate the honesty from them and that they describe their business so well. So I do like Sabio Holdings quite a bit, I have to say, right? Another distraction for me, another investing conference, right? Stocks and Stones, Matthew Martin, Stocks and Stones, Rivmont will be holding the next Microcap cocktail on November 26th at 5 p.m. For this occasion, we're excited to have our friends at Small Cap Discoveries doing the keynote speech. You won't want to miss this one. I have to ask myself a little bit, you know, a lot of investor conferences this year in 2025, all these investor conferences tend to invite, you know, 4, 5, 6 cannabis companies. Are there free samples? Is that why we have so many investor conferences this year? No judgment, right? Absolutely none. It seems to be, you know, weird that all these cannabis companies are showing up to investor conferences and all of a sudden we have tons of investor conferences, but I love them. I love absolutely everyone. Interesting for me, a big question. It'll be fun to watch and see because Small Cap Discoveries is showing up to Stocks and Stones, to Rivmont for this Microcap cocktail. Will they be pitching companies like CheerCare, CHER.V on the TSX Venture Exchange? Will it be name silo, right? Another opportunity here for a couple of Small Cap Discoveries favorite stocks to get a little bit of coverage potentially here on November 26th. So I look forward to that one, right? Back to my pitches. This is Ferran Technology Group. I have trouble saying it. I just call them FTG. The market, you know, it's interesting because this is a Planet Microcap showcase event with Ian Castle being the founder, one of the founders of Planet Microcap. And Ian is well known for saying that if, you know, every time you think a stock has gotten away from you, all you have to do is wait and it'll come back. Right? And it's amazing how many times that is correct because this is one of those companies where I really liked FTG down here. I ended up not buying and then I just sat back and just watched it go up, up, up in share price. And I knew I should have bought. I didn't. I just I got cheap, to be honest with you. I set a few bids down here. I missed out by a couple pennies and then it just absolutely ran up and I never ended up being an owner. But I mean, they did have a recently somewhat weak, okay, but not fantastic earnings report. And because of that, share prices dropped back down. So I have added FTG back onto my top stocks list. I do like this company. I do think, at least me personally, that you have to think a little bit long term. Some of my companies, some of my stocks, you know, I always talk about having a time, you know, as important as a price target is, a time target is more important than that, right? With a company like Sabio, I love Sabio Holdings, but when I look at Sabio, I'm going to give them about 6 months to kind of earn more of my money, or maybe I sell, or maybe they got about 6 months to show me something, right? Very short timeline of 6 months. Now, not saying I'm going to sell in 6 months. What I'm saying is they need to show me something in the next 6 months. I'm going to reevaluate my position. So shorter timeline, because if it's a higher risk stock, you know, I got to make sure you kind of, what's the saying, keep them on a short leash kind of thing, right? With some of these stocks, sorry, back to Ferran, you know, my timeline might not be 6 months. It might be 6 years, right? In this case, I kind of say 5 years, but some of these stocks, I think you have to look at them as longer term holds. And for FTG, it does look like insiders are looking at them as longer term holds as well. because recently there has been a lot of insider buying on the public market, roughly $165,000 worth since about late August here, including this recent one here of $75,000 on October 18th. So, you know, they always say there's many reasons why insiders could sell a stock, right? Kids going to college, they wreck the car, who knows, right? But there's only one reason for buying a stock, and FTG insiders seem to be buying a lot of their shares, right? BlueMetric is a newer company to me. I am liking it more all the time. Again, this is another company that kind of ran up and I missed out on it, didn't really like it at the time, didn't have time to research it. Now it's kind of trickling down in price. It's got my interest. I have moved it back up to my top stocks level, right? Looking at the valuation, this seems to be a good company at an okay price, and I can't really argue about that. I think they are saying they are going to get better margins in 2026. That's one of the reasons why their share price has been trickling down. Their margins have been struggling a little bit lately. So if they can improve their margins moving forward, I think there's pretty good potential here, right? So it's always interesting. Again, you think it's too late. You think you missed out on a company, and then a good company you like starts coming back down to you. And I have to see that as potentially an opportunity, because is it too late? I ran this poll yesterday. It's always interesting. I'm looking at different ideas for videos and you know, how to teach. I have this thing where I'm doing a bit more education, especially on my Patreon Substack, my members only live streams. And, you know, knowledge is power, so we need to talk about some of these things. And it's amazing how only about 1 in 10 people or less have complained or said that they basically buy a stock too late. It never sometimes hurts to wait with microcap stocks, just to see some of that consistent education. You know, a lot of people say that they tend to buy too early, right? 1 in every 3 people basically buy too early, 3 to 4 people, but only about 1 in 10 or 1 in 11 people say that they buy too late. So it's not the worst thing in the world to wait for some consistent execution before you buy. And then a lot of people, it's interesting, this is the same as me. This is what I said that I do, is I tend to sell too early, and I am not alone, because 40% of microcap investors say that they also sell too early. So welcome to the club. I'm gonna have to make a video on talking about this, because it's one of my failures as well. Sometimes I end up selling too early. So interesting thing to see. But with BlueMetric Environmental, the reason why I like it, clean water, right? So I previously owned a water company. It was taken out in an acquisition. In the past 18 months to 24 months, I have not owned a water company. I love any company that is in the business of cleaning water and water resources. I think this is a huge growing industry niche. This is what BlueMetric does. And so I am pretty interested in this company, though I am not done my research. It is newer to me. And then finally, Reclaim, right? Reclaim is on my list. They have not done much, right? Share price wise in the past year, only up 6%. This is the smallest company. I don't like talking about them too much. Pretty small. They're about a $10 million market cap, right? Back to about 8 cents, 8.5 cents. But when you look at this, this is trailing 12 months, right? This is their revenue, pretty consistently up. And this is with their core product. So their core product of Reclaim, where Reclaim monetizes your data. You give them permission to sell your data. Instead of giving away your data for free on the internet, Reclaim sells your data and you make some money off it, right? And that core business has been improving their revenue. But what Reclaim has done is, even though that core business was quite a bit more profitable here in 2024, the early part of 2024, they have been investing back into the business. And so their earnings have been going down. And now they have a second product called Reclaim Protect. I am testing it out right now. And this is the opposite of selling your data online. This is the one that protects your data online. So I have been paying to protect my data online using Incogni Canada. And I am also now paying for Reclaim Protect. And I mean, Incogni here is 5 times the price. So again, The same way I'm not fully researched Blue Metric Environmental. I'm not fully researched Reclaim Protect yet because I've only been using them for a few weeks at this point, but so far so good. I don't really see any difference between this $20 a year service and this $100 a year service. So it will be interesting to see if Reclaim Protect can find a market and bring in high margin revenue for Reclaim. This could be a game changer for the company. So I am interested in Reclaim. Finally, this is the last one. They are not presenting at Planet Microcap. One of the things I have to say, because they are not presenting, and all these investors now are distracted, researching other companies, researching other stocks, maybe putting their money into other companies, into other stocks, right? There's all these companies at Planet Microcap Showcase, 70 companies plus to put your money into as an investor. And because of that, D-Box, who is not going to be at Planet Microcap Showcase tomorrow, has been trickling down in share price. They recently went up to, I think it was about 46, 47 cents Canadian. They are now back down to 40 cents Canadian. And I even saw a few shares being sold for 39 cents. So that one is interesting moving forward, especially because there's some large investors, again, that like this company. Pointing out again, similar to FTG, the CEO bought 100,000 shares at 44 cents. So right now the share price is 4 cents under where the CEO bought on the open market, $44,000 worth, right? So pretty bullish for D-Box. Prices going down. Are they getting forgotten? I don't think they're being forgotten by some of the larger investors here. Maxwell Hills from Twitter/X recently went to view the company on site and posted this publicly for us to see. Of course, the disclosure here is that Maxwell House is, disclaimer, a long investor, but says that this was one of the most immersive visits he has ever done. I still like D-Box. They have made me some money. I am a shareholder, and it's good to see them potentially going down for Planet Microcap Showcase and giving an alternative place to put money in case, I don't know, nothing impresses you at Planet Microcap. I don't see that happening, but hey, you got to look for opportunities in different places. So if you're interested in talking about any of these other companies, of course, give it a shot. I got a 7-day free trial, so 1 week of free. Go to commonsensebrands.ca. You can join either my Patreon or my Substack, and choosing either of those locations takes you into my Discord, which is where we're talking about these stocks all day. Updates, news, conversation, communication, opinion, my opinion, other people's opinion. It's basically all stocks all day, all the time. I absolutely love it. Free week trial there at commonsenseinvesting.ca. That's it. That's my presentation. That's me excited for Planet Microcap Toronto. So many good potential stocks. I don't know how many I talked about there that I liked. 6, 7, 8 different companies going into Planet Microcap, and then D-Box, which is not presenting at Planet Microcap, but is quietly getting forgotten about, right? A lot of good opportunities, I think, in my mind. What are your favorite opportunities? Time for some Q&A here. Let me have it. Starting to lose my voice. I don't know if I'm getting a cold here or what. Too excited. Let's go back up to the list. Do you think that Grid, that's Tantalus, can get a boost from the narrative that data centers consume enormous power and will put a strain on energy availability? No, not really. Here's the thing. So it depends. A boost how? Because there's different ways that stocks get a boost. There's a boost in earnings, and while there's potential that Grid can get more revenue from data centers consuming a large amount of power, because for people that don't know, Tantalus basically works with the large energy providers to provide a more stable electrical grid. That's why they're basically called grid, to houses, to buildings and everything else, right? So right now the grid, especially because of renewable energy sources, they got wind power, they got solar power coming in. Your energy grid is kind of all over the place. Sometimes it spikes up, sometimes it spikes low, and grid Tantalus solves that problem. That takes time. It's slow. It's large companies that they're working with that take time to do trials and see if it works and then use it a little bit, right? It takes a lot of time. So can data centers help that? Long term, if you're talking a decade, yeah, they might get a boost from that. But I mean, is this going to affect, I'll be old and close to retirement by the time the data centers, I think personally, give grid a boost. Does that mean, though, if you look at the technicals of it, not the earnings, not does data centers help the earnings of the company, which could take a decade, but can data centers help the technicals, the narrative? Can people get excited about it and pay more for this company because, oh, in the future, they're going to make $1 bazillion off data centers? Absolutely. I mean, there's so many companies nowadays that they're trying to spin into, even if they could find a little piece of the company that could somehow be attached to data centers or artificial intelligence infrastructure anywhere, they're getting a share price boost. And it's not due to earnings, it's due to the narrative. It's due to the valuation going up. So no, I don't think earnings wise they'll get a boost, not for many, many, many years, but can they get a boost in valuation, public opinion? Will more people buy them if they think that grid is somehow associated or going to benefit from data centers? Absolutely. If you put that narrative out there, people will bite because the stock market isn't always rational. It's all about the story. A lot of these companies, it's all about the story. Can the story change into a positive, from a negative to a positive? If you can get that, that's when you get not only hopefully earnings improvement, but one of the ways to make money in microcap stocks is valuation improvement. Name Silo is finally catching its breath. Want to buy more, but catching my breath also. This market is pretty crazy right now. It is only pretty crazy because you own Name Silo, right? I think it's been very boring the last little while. I will pull up Name Silo just for the rest of the people to see, right? When you talk about catching your breath, there are only so many companies that have been up 264% in the past 12 months. I mean, yeah, catching its breath right here. This is really the most we've seen Name Silo go down in the past 12 months. I've said this has been such a lovely company where basically anywhere along the line here that you were willing to buy Name Silo, you were making money. So is this the first time that's going to stop and change, or are they just stopping for a little while for some consolidation? We shall see. And then do they get pitched at the November 26th Rivemont cocktail thing? I have no idea. But I mean, people are loving this company. The reason people are loving this company and the reason that share price is going up is that more people understand, or starting to understand, what this company is, which is basically a mini Berkshire Hathaway, right? You literally have one of the best microcap investors in the world in Paul Andriola of Small Cap Discoveries, right? Who's basically got this company here, Name Silo, which is producing cash. This is a website domain company, and that cash from Name Silo goes into the hands of Paul Andriola, and then he makes other investments to make this company better. Within that, he's buying shares of other companies, he's buying other companies, and he's buying a lot of different assets to try to bring in more cash. So he puts more cash in his hands to buy more companies. And as people understand that, the share price has been going up, 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 and up. So congratulations, I mean, is basically what I'm trying to say. But I don't think there's tons of stocks this year that are up 264%, and that's why you're catching your breath right now. So that's a good feeling. Decibel Cannabis, a lot of debt, too much of it. Yeah, if you think so, absolutely, no problem. Does have a lot of debt. Can't argue that. One of the risks. Can you watch the Planet Microcap presentations live if you're not a member? Yeah, so it's free to everybody. I think that's one of the, even in person, it's my understanding for Planet Microcap, you don't have to be a Planet Microcap member to go to Planet Microcap in Toronto. Like if you're a microcap investor, I do believe you just have to register and you could show up, and they make it available to anybody who wants to go. They do I do believe they check on you to make sure you're a real person, that you're a microcap investor. I think they send you an email to say, hey, let's have a chat. But I think it's open to anybody. I don't think you need to be a member, not only for the in-person stuff, but I believe for the online virtual events, you don't need to be a member. They make it free for all. And even if they don't, and I'm wrong, they usually release all of it 2 weeks later anyway, right? So it will be available to the public. In fact, I noticed even just today that Planet Microcap's got some virtual keynote speakers. My YouTube channel was flooded with Planet Microcap, Bobby there basically talking to all these different people. I'm like, I don't even have time to watch all these videos, and the event hasn't even started yet. So there's a lot of free content coming out of Planet Microcap. But yes, I believe it's free. Rubicon Organics is a better choice, but it's my opinion. This is it. Good. Look, that's the fun part of what I do. Sure, right? You want to tell me that Decibel's the best? Sure. You want to tell me that Oxley's the best? Sure. You want to... right? Like I'm trying to, I actually don't own Rubicon yet, but that's not because I don't like Rubicon, but believe it or not, I do run out of cash, and sometimes I need to wait before I, go buy some more companies. But that's basically what I'm saying, is that there's definitely there's a top level of cannabis stocks, and we could sit here all day and argue between, I like Decibel, I like Rubicon, I like Oxley, I like Canaro Bio. I just went and bought them all. So I'm not going to argue with any of you. Which one will be the best? I love the fun part of microcap investing. I love having that challenge, right? There's absolutely no better feeling than if you're right, and 2-3 years from now, we look back on this and you're like, Rubicon was the best. I love that little bit of competition in microcap stocks. Not a mean con, not a like ha ha ha, but it is fun. Just as men, typically we like the challenge of competition. So I do love that quite a bit. Just saying, this is my favorite stock. This is my favorite stock. Let's give it some time and see what happens in the future. I'm cheaping out and saying they're all my favorite stocks. Now, obviously, there's a shit pile of cannabis companies I don't like. I'm talking about the ones that I do like. But I mean, yeah, there's some good ones out there. Been adding to Intermap recently, got hit hard there last week. Yeah, a lot of people love Intermap. I've spoken to 3 or 4 people that are doing the same thing as you. Look, with Intermap, we've been waiting for a large contract. When is that going to come, right? So, as we wait, I hate to say it, but microcap investors are not really known for their patience. The longer things take, the more share price goes down. That's what we're seeing with Intermap. So it will be good to hear from them and see if we're any closer, although I'm not sure that they're going to be able to tell anybody. Like, it'd be under a cloak of secrecy. They won't be able to say. But yeah, good company. It's still on my top stocks list for sure. Oxley, Hash, Love, Romjay, here's my index. I'm glad they're cheap. Had time to build my index. See, the index, more people using the word index. And this is the point. This is the point here. What I'm doing, I don't think I'm alone, right? And other people are doing this very thing. I think once you turn that corner mentally in your mind and you find that one cannabis stock that you like, and it's like, holy shit, like I think I found the one cannabis company that's incredible and nobody knows about it, right? Because it's so cheap. Once you turn your mind back into cannabis investing, all of a sudden you realize it's not just one. You found one fantastic cannabis stock, but once you get through that barrier of investing in cannabis and find that one stock, it's amazing how it opens up to like, wait a second, there isn't just one. This one's pretty damn good. This one's pretty damn good. This one's pretty good. I might like this one a little better than the rest. You might like Rubicon a little better, but there's quite a few that are pretty good. Right? So it is just getting over that hump of I'm never investing in cannabis again. And that's why all these cannabis stocks are kind of coming up all in one bucket as the same good growing stocks, but cheap, because they're all not getting discovered by the same investors who are saying, I am never investing in cannabis. And if we can turn that corner from never investing in cannabis to just one, just go buy one, and see what happens, pretty soon that I guarantee you that one is probably going to turn into 5. And that's what I'm hoping that institutions do. right? All it's going to take is one cannabis stock to convince an institution to buy. Doesn't matter which one. Could be Rubicon, could be Decibel, could be Auxly, could be Canara. It doesn't matter. If one of those good cannabis stocks convinces an institution to buy it, I guarantee you within the next 12 months, that institutional investor won't just own that one cannabis stock. They will own more than one cannabis stock. So it's just crossing that Rubicon, right? Talking about time, Q3 of Covalon is coming up. Higher expectations. The CEO told us since Q1, the second half will be better. We will see how much better. Yes, finally. So it's interesting. I like Covalon. They're on one of my videos, like top microcap stocks video. I think they were in the number 5 spot. So I like this company. But it was amazing to me in Q2 how too many microcap investors got a little too excited, right? Most companies were saying, we're going to see improvement in the second half. They didn't say we're going to see improvement in Q2. So we have a whole bunch of these companies now. Bioram, Covalon are two of my favorites who've said, we're expecting a better second half. We now need to go watch and see if they get that better second half. So Q3 will be a very interesting quarter to see if some of these companies return to normal. And that's why, as a whole, I didn't mention it too much this video, but I've been saying it in a lot of my live streams. I'm not that excited for 2025. I have a few companies that I think could still go up a little bit in 2025. I'm up around 32% so far this year, but I'm really excited about 2026 because 2025 was a tough year for a lot of companies. If they can return to normal after all this trade tariff, trade war, Trump issues, right? If 2026 can be more of a return to normal, return to growth year, 2026 could be a very good year for some of these companies using their 2025 comparables. And Covalon, Bioram, and a few others are some of those companies that I'm watching for. Can they have a much better 2026? That's a company that I'm interested in. Never heard of Reclaim before. I'll have to do some DD, interesting business model. Well, you haven't heard of it because it's been kind of a shitty company. It's $10 million market cap company. They had debt and they were paying down the debt with shares. So they had debt and they had share dilution. Their current ratio last year, 12 months ago, was about 0.5. So their debt to revenue was terrible. The current ratio was bad. The balance sheet was bad. And we knew that there was more dilution coming because they were paying off that debt with dilution. So that's why you've never heard of Reclaim before. It was never a very good company. Their CEO, Neil Sweeney, has finally got all the debt paid off. There was share dilution to pay off that debt, but now that's stopped. So now you have a $10 million market cap company that has effectively no debt, that has, well, the share dilution is either slowed down or maybe stopped, right? And the balance sheet is now, I think it's now 2x, right? The balance sheet, the current ratio has gone from 0.5 to 2. So balance sheet improvement, share dilution stopped, debt is gone, $10 million market cap. If they can get some profitable growth, then Reclaim is looking a lot in. It's a much better company today than it was 12 months ago. That's all I'm going to say, right? Can I have a look at MMY.V's recent financials? Wonder your opinion. Posted $20 million US net profit, no debt. I'm an hour into this live stream. Let me know in the comments or send me an email at commonsenseinvestingcanada@gmail.com and we could chat. But right now I don't have the time because I am losing my voice. So I can't go look at a company right now. But find me on Twitter, 1 Cent Invest, right? Track me down somewhere and we could talk about the company. What do you think it'll take for cannabis companies to take off? Planet Microcap. No, I mean, here's the thing with cannabis companies. It's just going to take one. And one of the ones that I think it will take is a larger market cap here. So, you know, I'll tell you right now, XLY.to. It could be Canara too. I don't know Canara's market cap, but keep in mind that institutional investors have criteria, liquidity criteria on when they can buy a stock. So the reason an institutional investor can't buy most microcap stocks is because their firm has criteria where if something changes, they need to be able to sell the stock in X amount of days. So with most microcap stocks, when you get like a 13-cent stock and they only have a volume of like $50,000 a day or something like that, it's just not enough liquidity, right? Like if a little microcap stock is only trading for $5,000 a day worth of shares, and you got this institutional investor that wants to invest $250,000 worth of shares into a little microcap stock, it's impossible. Like buying this amount of shares at $5,000 a day will send the share price through the roof. And the problem is when they go to sell, if there's a problem, it will crash the share price. So institutional investors have liquidity requirements, right? So a stock needs to get large enough so they can not just buy it, but exit it. Keep in mind, they're worried about risk more than potential. They need to be able to exit a stock. So when I look at a company like this, when I look at Auxly Cannabis, yeah, it's only 13.5 cents, but it's got average volume of 911,000 per day worth of shares traded. That's quite a bit. It's got a market cap of 181 million. So my question is now for a company like Auxly, is that enough liquidity for an institutional investor to get interested and look at this company and say, okay, I've seen the potential for a while, but now there's enough liquidity where I could actually get out in case there's a problem. And I think that could be the case. Same thing here. Now we go look at Cannara Biotech, right? So pretty close, $165 million market cap, right? Average volume 66. They're getting 70,000 per day, but they're not a $13 stock. They're $1.71, $1.74, right? So this is roughly, right? How much is this? Roughly $125,000 per share traded per day, right? So that's a lot better. You're an institutional investor and you want to invest $250,000 into a stock, you know, and you got $125,000 worth of shares traded per day instead of $5,000 per shares traded per day. This is now a company that you could buy. So what we need to see is we need to see some of these larger cannabis stocks catch the attention of institutions and get some buying. And some of them, I know some of them, especially some of the smaller institutions, might already own some of these cannabis stocks quietly. But I mean, I would like to see some larger institutions and larger buying. But that's what it will take. It will take one of the larger cannabis companies to convince some of the larger institutional investors. And it will be that at this point with cannabis, I feel like Canadian retail investors have taken cannabis prices as far as they can go. If we're going to see the cannabis stocks really take off, it's going to take that 30% non-Canadian investors, the Europeans, the Americans, to start taking notice, or it's going to take those 40% of institutional investors to start buying. So Americans, institutions, that's in my mind what it's going to take for cannabis stocks to finally take off. They need discovery. They need discovery from those two places. I'm the guy that managed to buy Name Silo, and I'm down 1.5% on it. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. Absolutely. No worries about that. Still happens to me a dozen times per year, right? What is the longest you have held a position? I mean, probably about 12 years now is my longest holding. There's a couple stocks that I still own for over a decade. Yeah. I get criticized quite a bit. You know, I'm not going to get into too much education here, right? I don't know if I've got it on one of my slides. I'll take a quick look to see if I deleted it or left it on this one here. But you have to keep in mind that as an investor, companies need to earn my money, right? That's basically what I say all the time. So I'll find this slide, found it here. Go down here, and this is what I follow. So if I'm gonna, it's not about how long I hold a company. Basically, I build a thesis, I buy a stock, I evaluate all the inputs, right? I evaluate my thesis on these inputs, earnings, news coming in, and other reasons, and then I decide to either buy, trim, sell, or hold. I don't have hold on here, but that's an option as well. So what I do through this is that companies need to earn my money. And I've been accused sometimes of being like a trader because I'm too short term. Well, if I buy a stock, and I buy a stock because I build a thesis, and in 2 weeks the company releases earnings or a news release that changes my thesis and I don't like it anymore, then I'm going to sell it. And so I'm not necessarily a trader. I just have to hold companies accountable to the thesis, the investing thesis that I build around them. Other companies I'll give long term, right? Like I was just talking about Ferran, FTG, that type of company. What I'll do is maybe my inputs won't be on every press release. Maybe it won't be on every earnings. Some companies like FTG, I might just say, you know what, I'm fairly good with this company. All I'm going to look at is annual audited earnings. That's all I care about. So while some of these companies, I basically might be reevaluating my thesis every 2 weeks, there's other companies where I might be only reevaluating my thesis every year. And on these types of good companies, I tend to hold them for longer. But I'm not a trader, and I've never bought a company and just been like, I'm going to hold it for 20 years. I never do that. They have to consistently earn my money, and they either earn more of my money, they earn that hold, or I start trimming. And the other thing to consider within my type of investing strategy is just because I own a company, how much, right? So if you want to de-risk, you can trim. If you want to increase your risk, you could buy. But that means that a stock can go from, let's say it's a 1% position within my portfolio and it starts really executing, and maybe it moves up to a 20% position in my portfolio. So it doesn't mean that I've sold, I'm not out. I've held the stock for 10 years, but it can change in position sizes. And then I decide, you know what, this is too risky. I'm not comfortable with that. I'll sell half and I'll be back down to 10%, right? So it's not just owning a stock or not owning a stock. It's really about how much. Portfolio management is a huge part of learning how to invest in microcap stocks, in my opinion. Like I can show you different stocks where I could take two different investors, and on the same stock, one investor will make money and another investor will lose money. It just really depends on your strategy, when you buy, if you sell, when you sell, right? All that kind of stuff. So I have held stocks for over 10 years, but they have to earn my money. Please give us some insight on Sabio Holdings. I'm interested in this one. Again, you're awesome. Well, thank you. Go to my Substack. I have a whole Substack article. I have a whole video out on them on that Substack article, commonsenseinvesting.ca. Go to the Substack. I think the Sabio article is free. I think the Sabio video now is free. The public should be able to see that. And as well as you can go on YouTube and look up Radius Research and Martin Cagle for that recent interview, or just hit Sabio Holdings stock and filter it down to interviews in the past week, and you will find that. So basically everything about Sabio is in that article for me and why I am interested in them. Robotic girlfriend company. Yeah, Xbox. I haven't looked at them in a while, Xbot. So I wonder how they're doing. But yeah, I have no idea how they're doing right now. I think I'm out. I am an hour and 7 minutes into this. I've answered all your questions. I've talked about a ton of stocks. I really appreciate it. This was fun. I am hyped up. I'm excited for Planet Microcap. Thank you to Small Cap Discoveries for having an investor event. Thank you to Planet Microcap for having an investor event. Thank you to Ribmont for having one coming up in November. I love them. I love getting excited to research some of these stocks. Gives us an excuse to talk about some of these stocks. Go find and look at some stocks that we don't normally look at most of the year. Absolutely love it. So thank you to them. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all the support. Thanks for coming out on a Monday evening and talking about microcap stocks. Good luck for people that are going to the event. Let me know. Once you're there, hit me up on X, send me an email, talk to me on YouTube, talk to me on my Discord, wherever you want to talk to me. What's your favorite company and why? What impressed you the most and why? I would love to hear from you. I am not there in person. So any information I can get, I love it. I'm not quite overflowing with information yet. As an investor, you can always use a little bit more. So hit me up anytime. I look forward to seeing you next week to see what your thoughts were about Planet Microcap and if there's any surprises.